Hello, this is SaSe here from Hotkeyit.com. I have a couple replays from E.G. Thorzane and Quantic SaSe, and in this video we're going to be learning how to play like SaSe, particularly PvT. So this replay, SaSe starts out with his sort of iconic two gas with two guys on each geyser opening, which is a type of one gate fast expand, where you get a bit more Vespian gas, and also the opponent is going to be a lot less likely to know how much gas you're mining because you have two geysers. And what that does is it puts in the potential for things like Dark Templar Rush or super fast Colossus or a lot of sentries in a gateway all-in or something like that, to where they don't know how much Vespian you're going to be mining. Whereas if you only take one Vespian geyser, then the Terran can rule things out and then make proper adjustments and optimize their build a little more. So we have a little bit of shenanigans going on. Two Zealots in the early game, a Nexus is going down currently, and we'll see 3 gates come from SaSe. These two Zealots look like they're just used to chase the SCV away and set up the proxy pylon. If you only have one Zealot and a Stalker, it'd be a bit harder to set up a proxy pylon compared to if you have 2 quick Zealots and a sentry like this. Also, if you have the sentry instead of the Stalker, it can stock a little bit of energy up so that by the time your push comes, you can use a Guardian Shield, a very fast Guardian Shield too. So now you can see that the warp gates are warping in right at 6 minutes. So this is a pretty quick 3-gate pressure. And the probe usage is going to start lulling to a bit of a slow. And then you'll see after the push, the probe production takes off again. So it's going to slow down quite a bit. The priority is warping things in constantly from the gateways. If you could fit probes in between, then that's perfectly fine, and you should do that. But just be sure that when you're doing a pressure, the 3-gate pressure like SaSe is, you got to be prioritizing gateway units because that's the whole point of what you're doing. And you'll see why this is so effective momentarily. So now he has 2 sentries that don't have Guardian Shield ready, but he has the other one from the early game which does. So if he wanted to push up the ramp right now, he could, and then all of his Zealots would be underneath the very, very helpful Guardian Shield. Guardian Shield in the early game, right around this time, when there's a good amount of Marines, or not a very large amount of Marine and Marauder, but you can have a good amount of Zealots, is really, really effective. Alright, now let's watch the push. Right before the push, let's take a look back at what's going on in the base. Like I said, probe production is slowing down a bit. Once you have this many probes mining in your main, you want to do what SaSe did, rally to your natural so that you don't oversaturate your main and undersaturate your natural. SaSe making sure his Guardian Shield's over all of his Zealots. The units loss tab should show that everything is fairly equal. Also fairly equal on workers. SaSe needs to kill quite a few workers, otherwise he's just going to be behind in the game. Now right about now is when many of us would fail this push. We'd lose 3 very expensive sentries in the front because a bunch of SCVs are slamming into them and Marauders and Marines are shooting them. And then we end up damaging our Stalkers on these heavy hitting Marauders. What you should do when you're pushing like this is to focus on not losing your gas heavy units and trading a lot of Zealots. So you can see that's exactly what SaSe does, is he backs up his gas expensive units and he's going to wait in for more warp-ins of Zealots. And in the meantime, he'll kind of run back and forth and try to pick off as many SCVs or Marines as he can without taking too much damage. Take a quick look again what's going back on in the main. As SaSe's income rises higher than he can spend it with these 3 gateways, he lays down 2 additional ones to take up some of his mineral income. His probe production is still at an all-time low currently because he's spending so much money on this push. Now SaSe is still currently behind. If SaSe were to just go ahead and back off this attack he'll go back to his base and continue playing, he would be, there'd be a large income disparity, and you can see here, the income is generally higher for the Terran player if all these SCVs were mining. So by keeping them over here, these SCVs have to stay off of mining to where incomes can be fairly even. And then if SaSe can actually manage to kill off a lot of the SCVs without taking too much damage, you'll be in a really good spot to progress through into the rest of the game. So now that the SCVs are gone, he knows he can target down some of these marauders, and each marauder taken down will lower the DPS of Thorzane's army very, very quickly. And then he might even be able to just take the game unless Thorzane backs up. Which you can see he smartly does. And pulls a few more SCVs to buffer these marauders. Again, once the SCVs slam on your Vespene heavy units, you're going to want to back them up away. SaSe smartly picks off a couple free SCVs instead of just running straight away. Doesn't take a whole lot of damage. And then he's likely just going to wait for one more warp in. Take a quick look at what's going on back here. Morphing these gateways into warp gates immediately. He should have, I think he produced a couple more probes, because there's no reason he shouldn't. It's smart to try to target a marauder. I think he got a marauder up here. Yeah, looks like he got it. There's a really weak marauder in there. And now suddenly SaSe is up 10 workers instead of even beforehand. And even though he has more resources lost, the worker disparity is what's going to end up letting SaSe win this game. So I'm going to go ahead and speed through this a bit quicker. The push is about over. SaSe, I think, trades one last time, takes out a few more SCVs, and goes back home. He's going to continue his probe production right when the push stops. You can see him immediately chrono boosting out more probes. Gets his robo to start climbing the tech path, and once the robo is placed, you take your additional assimilators. Now you can see 43 to 21 worker count. You can imagine the rest of the game progressing where SaSe's army is just a lot larger and he ends up winning because of the early game pressure. Here we have the second game between SaSe. Here we have the second game between SaSe and E.G. Thorzane. In this game, SaSe has another interesting way of taking out a whole lot of SCVs that allows him to win in the late game really convincingly. So again, he's doing his rather interesting 2 guys up for Vespene, except this time I think he has 3 on that one. And does a fast expand. And we can see a 1-rax fast expand from Thorzane with a fast 2-rax. Instead of getting 2 zealots like last game, he went for a very fast stalker, a sentry, and 1 more sentry after that. So you should be able to tell just because of the early game unit composition that he's not actually doing a 3-gate press. Even though he does get 3 gates, he's not really planning to set up a proxy pylon anywhere close. Instead, contrasted to last game, he fully mines from both geysers, gets a 3rd geyser, and a robo facility. Almost all the time in PvT, you'll see players take their 3rd geyser and their robo about the same time. That way you can get enough Vespene to support all 4 of these structures. Here again we see the standard 3 to 4 sentries chilling out at the natural expansion. You see this all the time. It allows for just enough force fields to hold ramps and guardian shield for the mid game when Terran's likely being very aggressive. You'll see 2 observers come out of this robotics facility, and there's a Twilight Council, which a Dark Charm will be placed right after that finishes. So now what SaSe is planning on doing is, even though the Terran is moving across the map, which you'll see soon, he does a counter drop with Dark Templar, and the counter drop ends up taking out so many SCVs that the game is just basically in an unwinnable position for E.G. Thorzane. So now 2 observers come out of this robotics facility, followed up with a warp prism, And the two observers are to know when the Terran army isn't in a position to take care of the Dark Templar easily. If SaSe had just blindly put Dark Templar in the main, the army might be here, and then Thorzane might be able to very efficiently take care of all the Dark Templar, and then the result could be that SaSe would be behind. But he's being smart about it. He's taking 2 Zealots with him, probably just for a little more power once he first lands. And now SaSe can see that Thorzane is moving out across the map. He has his Warp Prism that basically just went straight from the Robo, picked up 2 Zealots, and came over here. So the timing of this is really nice and lined up for SaSe. Drops the Zealots and then proceeds to warp in a couple Dark Templar. It's important to warp in a couple Dark Templar and send them to different locations so that all the Dark Templar that you have in their base can't be taken out with one scan, which is the case if you only have one Dark Templar. So you might as well warp in a few of them, not just one. And then of course, he also has one on the army that's likely to take out a few Marines and force the army to move all the way back across the map, which is absolutely terrible for Thorzane. And the DT back on here are going to be taking out various things, causing a lot of havoc. All these SCVs do end up coming back into the main, and you'll see why in a bit. The reason why is because SaSe placed down a ton of warp gates just about as his warp prism finished. And these are for warping in a lot of units into the main of Thorzane. And the reason you need so many warp gates is because you can only load 4 units into the warp prism. So once you get the warp prism in the main, you need to be able to warp in a whole lot of stuff, because you can't warp in previously and then traverse up into the main. This will be taken care of pretty easily. There are charge lots, so even if there was concussive shell, charge lots will be able to deal out damage. And then of course there's Dark Templar that can take care of things pretty easily too. Dark Templar continuing to do a lot of damage. Worker count still not in the favor of SaSe, which is exactly what happened last game. But you can see that the pressure that SaSe is putting on ends up forcing SCVs to come up the ramp and augment with remaining forces of Thorzane. Otherwise, this small army is just not going to be able to deal with all these charge lots in the main. And SaSe seems quite content with taking out SCVs. A lot of units per model. So now the worker disparity is very large. Right about now would be the perfect time to load up and get out of here, because there's not a whole lot for SaSe to kill left in the main that's actually worthwhile. But I think he thought he might be able to do more damage, so he stayed and continued to work on some more stuff. He killed 1 SCV, 1 SCV, 2 SCVs. Got the stalkers out of there, but then I had to leave behind 2 Dark Templar. Which don't really do a whole lot except force down another scan. Ends up getting 1 SCV here. These SCVs actually have +1 armor, so they do not die to 1 swipe currently. So SaSe stayed a little too long, but there's like a 15 worker difference right now. So SaSe's able to very easily take his 3rd base faster and more comfortably than Thorzane will be able to. He also has superior tech and can start getting upgrades as well. Whenever an engagement ends in PvT and the Protoss goes back to their base, or the engagement ends and the Protoss army reforms somewhere, that's almost always going to be a very good time for the Terran to drop you. And as you can see here, Thorzane loaded up 2 medevacs, dropped. The timing was excellent. It was very good game sense on his part. Sadly, SaSe did not have anything back there, and he lost his Templar archives, which ends up not being that big of a deal. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the replay, as there's not a whole lot left to learn. The rest is basically SaSe just making a lot of stuff and winning, preventing the 3rd from going down at a proper time. keeping Thorzane in his base for quite a while. Thorzane is down by over 20 food currently, having a lot of trouble just getting his third. SaSe's third has been up for quite a while, already mined like a good amount from these mineral fields. And now Thorzane would probably like to take out these observers, but I don't think he realizes they are there. And when I was watching this replay earlier, I noticed that the observer was following this army, which is significantly smaller than the Protoss army. And then, as Thorzane takes like one step onto SaSe's side of the map, SaSe immediately knows and just like goes over and murders it. And then Thorzane, good game, well played. And indeed it was good game and well played. So I hope you enjoyed this this 2 replay video on playing like SaSe and analyzing the build orders and how they worked. And if you have any questions about anything you've seen here, please ask me on the Hotkeyit forums and I'll gladly answer. And I hope you enjoyed the video.